Good morning, and it's August. It's August 3rd. We're happy to be with you today here at the City of Pensacola, and glad a chance to first talk to you about some things that we have going on, and then also be happy to answer any of your questions. Obviously, there are a lot of great things happening right now in the city, but we do want to talk about some unfortunate, tragic things that had happened. I mean, certainly our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the Nettles family and the girl that was shot. Anaya Nettles. We certainly, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the Nettles family, and with them dealing with that shooting yesterday was just a senseless case of what happens with gun violence. But I did want to comment a little bit to know that we are addressing these things. We have just finished up, and we will be hiring a gentleman to come on board with Lawrence Powell, Kelsey Powell. No relationship between them, but Kelsey is going to be starting with us very shortly, looking to address things with youth and trying to deal with some of these things and trying to move them with economic opportunity away from getting led into things that create gun violence. These are things we've been talking about for a while. We had this position ready to go in February, and we were beginning the process. We got hit by COVID. It was actually once upon a time when we were talking and administration was talking about wanting to cancel this as we were juggling our budget. And I said at this point that position was far too, while we had seen gun violence go down during COVID, I knew at some point things would be happening. So again, we immediately put that at the top of the list. Coming out of COVID, we interviewed, and Lawrence has made a decision, and Keith came to me, and we're looking forward to bringing Mr. Powell on board and beginning to work with him as we move forward in trying to find solutions to gun violence. Not only that, we've also been talking a number of things. I've been reaching out to Commissioner May, others in the individual about in the community about what we can do with gun violence. I know last week Kyle Cole came to me to meet with me and talk about some ideas that he thought about about reducing gun violence. It is something that is on our mind here, and it's certainly heavy on our heart with Anaya Nettles, and so we're certainly thinking about that. But we will be addressing that. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the family, and we will be looking for solutions so that we can find alternatives to gun violence in our community and addressing economic opportunity. On to the good news. One of the good news will be right after this conversation, I believe, I'm meeting with Andrew Rothfeder, who has been handling some of the West Main, both the city parcels on the Maritime Park as well as the Studer parcel on the old ECUA property. And I believe they have made a selection, and we are going to be sitting down with the newspaper editorial team to discuss that selection that will be coming forward. I do know that that in that we can have, we think we might have again from what we have the possibility of looking at is probably 3 projects coming up that are all different, not competitive in any way together, and they're very complementary. Can they be able to come forward out of the ground is what's hoped for and expected. There are some infrastructure things that we need to bring forward as a city that we're working with. It's one of the reasons we continue to be dealing with hashtag and the other things that we've got going on. We think this can be incredibly a great economic opportunity. One of the things I was talking about with Commissioner May as well, and I know it's been on his mind very much as he's moved forward and looking at what we're doing, the county has done with the covenant. We have the disparity study here, but we're also looking at the covenant. This is going to make sure that those jobs that come out of the Maritime Park are on the former ECUA site. It's going to make sure we have locals, but not only that, we're going to have minority local businesses also involved in this thing. So again, that the building of that, the economic opportunity that will create will stay here locally with individuals to make sure that they participate in that and they build the projects that are going to be here in the city. Those are the kind of economic opportunities we're going to be moving forward with, and we think that working with people like Mr. Powell, Kelsey Powell, and Lawrence Powell, that we can create opportunities that will hopefully turn people away from thinking about gun violence to what they can do and creating economic prosperity and opportunity for themselves. So again, these are all some of the positive things that are moving forward. Obviously, one of the other big things that has been positive in moving forward happening is we are applying, obviously, Space Command as we move forward. And certainly yesterday, a big part of that was having SpaceX, the Dragon Endeavor, land here in the Gulf of Mexico successfully, and we were able to bring astronauts Bob Bempkin and Doug Hurley home safely. It was an incredible honor to be at the site for the NASA SpaceX splashdown, and our community sees this opportunity as a chance to build on our rich legacy in the Navy and Marine Air Corps aviation and current initiatives and advanced technologies, and to demonstrate the clear potential that we have to be a part of exploration, the space exploration's future. Pensacola truly is Florida's first and future. We one of the first in naval aviation, and now we're going to be one of the first into where we go with our future with space exploration. We are obviously looking at Space Command, but again, there are so many different parts of it that if certainly we end up with a different part, we certainly can work with that. But we believe Pensacola, what we have with the Gulf of Mexico, what you saw with SpaceX, what you see here with Blue Origin, are all examples of how we can participate in this community, can drive our not only our area, but also our nation and really the world into space exploration. And we believe Pensacola can be that shining star leader of where our future goes. So we're very excited about that. Resident satisfaction survey, just a reminder that this is the last week of the annual survey. Survey asks residents about their satisfaction with a variety of city services, facilities, including streetlights, sidewalks, neighborhood safety, and more. It also prompts participants to rank their top priorities for the city of Pensacola. City residents are asked to complete the survey online at uwf.edu/HOS resident survey or by phone at 850-495-2666 by Sunday, August 9th. Also, this is just another reminder, we've been out there talking to you about it, the 2020 census. This is another reminder that you still have some time to complete it if you haven't done it. Our goal in Escambia County in the city of Pensacola is 80%. Currently, the city of Pensacola is at 64.4%, and Escambia County is at 60.7%. So we've got a little bit further to go. We need your response on there, and for you to respond and get that in. It's very important. A number of things are based off the numbers that we get on the census. So we definitely need you to fill out your census paperwork and get that in there. It is online, but there are all kind of ways to work through it. I believe, Casey, we have all that information on our website, how to get census. I know Casey's been very involved, put together a couple of promotions with city council members, county commissioners, putting it out there, trying to get you to remind you to fill out your paperwork. So please fill out your census. We need that. It's very important to where we go as a community. Lastly, I guess wanted to discuss here a couple of things. One, congratulations to Captain Weidlich on his retirement from Pensacola Fire Department after 30 years of dedicated service to the PFD. We certainly will miss Jason Weidlich. Captain Weidlich has been obviously with the fire service, come all the way up to captain for 30 years of participation. We hate to see you go, but we did want to congratulate you and thank you for all the service that you have provided to us. Again, this is some of what's happening. We're out there looking for good people to join our fire ranks. There are opportunities. We've had some great leadership, but obviously people are getting to the end of their careers, and we are looking for new people to step up all the time. I was out there last week and had the opportunity to see several new members come onto our fire team. If you're interested, please contact Chief Craner. I know they're looking for good people to become part of our fire service here at the city of Pensacola. Certainly we will miss Jason, but we wish him the best as he moves forward with whatever endeavor he chooses to go from there. And then lastly, I just simply wanted to say, I know it became somewhat of a story last week, and again, it was one that we had stopped from that. From our standpoint, we thought it had been sort of a non-story. About a month ago, we decided to move in a different direction on street murals. We certainly thought that street murals had the positive opportunity to bring neighbors together, to bring community pride to a certain area, and also to really slow down traffic. We saw all that working. The one thing we did not intend or did not see as a possible consequence was the opportunity for commercialization of that. We did receive, some correspondence from an individual who had an HVAC company. That individual wanted to advertise. When we looked at the ability to block by content, we decided we couldn't. We knew we couldn't do that. We did not anticipate what that would mean. We dropped back in July. There were actually two groups. One had a White Lives Matter and one had a Blue Lives Matter that were in the process of getting permits. But we explained to those individuals that we had dropped the entire program because we did not anticipate the commercialization of it, and we didn't think it was appropriate to put commercials on public streets and use our public streets for private personal gain. So we stopped that. So again, just sort of following up off the Channel 3 story, just wanted to let everybody know what happened. And again, we did this a month ago on July 6th. So it really sort of was a non-story for us. We were kind of surprised on Friday, but again, we had made that decision about a month ago on July 6th when we had a call from an HVAC contractor. And again, we don't believe that the streets are going to be places for commercials. We had hoped slogans would have been okay, but we realized we couldn't block by content, so we've moved on and we're out of that altogether. But those are some of the things that we wanted to talk to you about. Now I'm happy to answer your questions if you have any. Casey, let me know what you got.
First question is from Dave Dunwoody at WWF. He said local bar owners met Sunday to discuss orders to close down because of COVID-19. What are you hearing about whether the state's going to lift that ban, and do you think restaurants are next if things worsen in Florida?
I didn't have it, Dave. I didn't. We were talking last week. We were approached. The city was approached about using City Hall for this meeting. We were active and we were going to be engaged, but then the decision from we were working with Representative Andrade's office, but sort of the word came down from the state that they weren't looking to do it at a public building. They were actually looking to do it at a bar and engage bar owners. We were sort of not, it wasn't so much that we were asked not to come, but it was kind of something that says, hey, we really weren't looking at, it wasn't necessarily a city thing. So we certainly respected that. We wanted the state to have the opportunity to talk with actual bar owners. I have not had the chance, it's been on it's one of the things I meant to do this morning that I just didn't get around to doing, was talking with some of those breweries and bar owners to see how the meeting went. I do look to follow up with them. Again, at the city standpoint, we've said this. I've said this on, at least here. I know also on my Wednesday calls, I've talked about the fact that I believe that if breweries and bars could act like restaurants, that again, if people sat down and had table service, it would be significantly different. They would act like restaurants, and I think you would see less of it. The problem with bars, I don't think it's the bars so much or alcohol consumption, because people do that in restaurants. I think the problem with bars are people tend to go from table to table and mingle, and they tend to congregate in tight places. And that's just the way we've always operated with bars. So it is somewhat hard, but I think if bars operated like restaurants, I would have less of a problem. I've made that conversation. I've talked to breweries about that. I even sent that to the state and DBPR myself, indicating that I thought that was a viable way for them to look at it if they could operate like restaurants. So I don't know what came out of that discussion. We were very active in it when I guess Representative Andrade was reaching out to us to get City Hall. But when they decided to go a different direction with the location, it was not something the city was as closely connected to at that point. But we are interested to see what the state comes out with. Again, as I'm very clear, we haven't closed anything at the city. It wasn't our decision to make anybody close. The state did make some decisions to get people to close. From their standpoint, the state needs to figure out whether there's a safe way to do it. And if they can, we'll do that. Casey, I totally forgot to, before you go to the next question, I kind of forgot to give an update as to where we are with COVID-19. I skimmed over that as I was doing a bunch of things on there, and I forgot your COVID-19 update. I was going to say right now we have 8,000 positive cases, but we only have 7,000 residents. And if you look at it, we've been kind of in that 7,000 range for quite a while, which is good news. That means we've had lower positivity rates. Again, the state showed an 8.9% positivity rate for August 1. We've been trying to get below 10 for some time. That's great news. Hospitalizations over the weekend, I communicated with Casey. I definitely want to share this. On Sunday, they went to 217, and hospitals were 234 on August 1st and 231 on July 31st. So again, we kind of seen them just over the last week. We kind of got to a stabilization point, and I'm hoping now we're going to see a trend moving in a downward direction. We're seeing obviously some things happen with positivity rate. And I think that just speaks to the fact of where we are. And I hope, I've seen people more and more diligent about masks, but the problem is with masks, we cannot let up. We can actually see our numbers go down. And I think this is the challenge. Whenever you see this happen, it takes about 2 or 3 weeks for you to really see numbers that work because of the way the virus lags. So again, I think the things that we started doing and getting serious about masks in the mid part of July really are beginning to show up now. And I think if we continue to do that and continue to be vigilant about our mask, we're going to see a drop. Last week, and I'm probably going to end up having to do this on my Wednesday Facebook Live because I don't have the numbers at this point. But last week, the Miami on Thursday, the Consul General for Japan had the one that's in Miami did a little Teams meeting with people up here, the Japan American Society here in Northwest Florida and other individuals, and I had the opportunity to be a part of it. The presentation was incredibly interesting when you look at the numbers that Japan has had. Now, Japan was fairly heavily criticized when it first started, but as things got moving and things went through Asia, they ended up being one of the sort of, when you look at the lower rates of both contracting the virus and also mortality. And I think when you see those numbers, especially when you compare them to somewhere like Florida, which Japan is probably 6 times the size of Florida, but when you see the numbers that they had were significantly different. And one of the things the press was very critical is Japan didn't go in some kind of harsh position. And when you talk to the Consul General, he kind of said, he said we did basically 3 things. He said, with Japan, we don't really shake hands. We traditionally have concepts that we do that, bowing, so we don't shake hands. So we social distance. We're very vigilant about washing our hands, and we wear masks. And everywhere you saw these pictures, everyone in Japan is wearing a mask. So my point is, I realize people hate masks in America, and I understand all the things that are there. But when it comes to the disease and the virus, other cultures, other nations are showing us that if we wear masks, we can not have the same thing. We can get it back under control. The best thing about it is all the people out there that are so worried about the economy. Japan, through this whole process, they never went above 3% unemployment. 3% unemployment. They stayed focused. If your whole idea, and you talk to me and you send me emails and text about the economy and the need for us to open up, the best way to do it is mask. Japan has shown that, and it's so interesting to look at other countries. And I realize the first thing you're going to say is, well, people wear masks, and it's Asian. It's a variety of other reasons. I understand all that. I know that we're not the same way. But you know what? This is a case where we got hit by something, a virus. If we look to other nations and other cultures that are working through this successfully, dealing with keeping their economies open, dealing with keeping their people employed, we can do that. And not only that, they kept their communities healthy at the same time. You can have a win-win-win all the way across the way if we do the proper things. And it's the same things we've been talking about forever. Social distance, washing your hands, wearing a mask. We do those 3 things, COVID will be a thing of the past in the United States, in the state of Florida, more importantly in the city of Pensacola. We've got to do that, and we can do it. And when I listened to the Consul General in Japan, the interesting thing was he could not understand the concept that we had people who were suing in the United States to not wear the mask. It just seems so foreign to him. I know that's how foreign some of us think about wearing masks. I know it's culturally different, but the point is, if you look at the success rates in the two cultures, clearly they are being much more successful than we are in dealing with COVID. And for right or wrong, they're able to deal with it because they address it in the mask. And if we want to do the things, we can be just as successful. We just have to do it ourselves. But I'll talk a little bit more about that Wednesday. But I'm sorry, I forgot to make your update on COVID, Casey.
That's all right. Next question is from John at Studio 850, and it's kind of related to the first question. There were reports that Florida DBPR Secretary Hasley Brashears was in town this weekend meeting with bar and craft brewery owners. Did you talk with Secretary Brashears this weekend? If so, can you give us a readout of your discussion?
I did not talk with Secretary Brashears. Again, I talked mainly with Alex Andrade, who was putting it together. We had City Hall designed to be that location. When it moved away from City Hall, it wasn't that the city wasn't invited, but it really didn't seem like it was the state's meeting with them. So we kind of we did not talk from there. I will say though, I did reach out to Secretary Brashears through an email. I know that I'd heard he was putting together a task force that was going to look at this, that was of sort of breweries and bar owners. And I know from the very beginning, our own DC Reeves here in the city of Pensacola has been very active in talking about this point. He's talked to me several times about it. I think he has validity. I've written the letter before to the governor about this back in May about breweries. So from that standpoint, we didn't have any direct conversation this time, but I did recommend if Secretary Brashears is going to create a task force, I thought DC Reeves would be a great addition to it. I think DC is very passionate about this issue in his business, and I think he's got some good leadership skills. So I definitely recommended him, and I think he would be a very good addition to that group.
And there's no name on this question, so I don't know who it's from, but it says, do you plan to look into a citizen's concern that a 911 dispatcher asked the race of a pedestrian hit by a vehicle on Sunday?
We did. It was a very unfortunate. I did talk to citizen was reached out to me, Ellison Bennett, whose office is right there at the corner of Blunt and MLK. Apparently, a biker was going west on Blunt. The stop sign was on Blunt. Stop light is a traffic signal there. The red light was on Blunt. The biker, I don't know if didn't see it, didn't slow down at all. Went right into the intersection. A car coming down, and if you know that intersection, it's also kind of tight because you got buildings right up against the corner. A car who had the green light on MLK is coming southbound on MLK. It hit the bike. It was I don't know what happened with the incident, but I do know Mr. Bennett told me that he contacted. He called. He said he talked with EMS dispatch, and that question was asked. Again, we do not. City of Pensacola does not control Escambia County dispatch EMS. We did have somebody there very quickly. Mr. Bennett responded saying that PPD showed up, took care of the case, blocked everything off, did a great job, and was there very fast. The question came up that in the conversation that the dispatcher asked that they need to know to send an ambulance if the individual was black or white. Again, we are trying to figure out whose dispatch that was and to listen back to it. I haven't heard anything more at this particular time, but I know that Mr. Bennett did reach out to me yesterday, and so we're still trying to find out. But again, we don't do EMS dispatch, but again, that's still trying to figure out what's happening.
And this is from Andrew McKay, and you kind of already touched on this, and he left a follow-up comment, so I'll just read them both. He asked, can you please explain the decision to not permit an All Lives Matter mural? And then his follow-up comment said, it seems like allowing an All Lives Matter mural would be on par with the existing mural, and it wouldn't open the city up to all other messages, including commercial ones.
Unfortunately, Andrew, we are not, just like what we have on signs, we are not prevented to deal with signs based on content. So if we give a permit, we can either give permits or we cannot give permits. We cannot we cannot give permits based on content. So because of that, we never anticipated when we started looking at the mural and saying suggestions, we looked at it from a standpoint of exactly that we thought it was just going to be slogans. We never anticipated what would happen if an individual really wanted to put a commercial on there. And obviously, one of the problems is you're not going to see a lot of painting happen with slogans because you got to raise money. However, from a commercial standpoint, when you have private gain involved in that, certainly becomes more likely that we might have more of that. And if we were unable to block it, it just came down to a point where we did not anticipate. So from our standpoint, we're either all in or we're all out. Well, again, we got into it not thinking one thing, but once it became clear to us that that commercialization was something we were not going to be able to block and we would have to deal with, we decided to get out of street painting altogether. So we did that back on July 7th. So for us, by the time July 30th, July 31st, in the days of COVID, that's like a year. I mean, every month is like a year during COVID. So it seemed like a long time ago to us. The more pressing part is that we actually had two individuals who we were working with. We had corresponded on that very day, and we had Brad Hinote working with them to permit both a White Lives Matter and a Blue Lives Matter. So from that standpoint, we had permits in place or moving in place, and we canceled the whole thing. So, I mean, I look at much more those two have really reason to complain. We stopped them in the middle of the permit process. However, neither of those groups really came forward. They sort of understood what we were dealing with. The individual who had the HVAC company never came forward anything additional. But again, from our standpoint, we'd never anticipated commercials being a part of it, and it's just one of those things where once that got involved, we decided to move forward and not allow any street painting. Like I said before, there were three good things that street painting would have done. It really brought neighborhoods together. It created a sense of neighborhood pride, and it slowed traffic down. I mean, we've seen that on A Street already. Traffic has slowed down. So there were some good things about it. We would have liked to have had the opportunity to move forward on it, but not able to change, freedom of speech issues and block on content, just like we can't for signage. We can't have rules for campaign signs, for commercial signs. We had to have just rules for signs. So much the same way we had for street painting, we just decided we were out of street painting.
All right, and this question doesn't have a name on it either, but it says Milton is discussing approval tonight of a hardship application for CARES Act money to help with utility bills. Has Pensacola yet initiated the same? You mentioned it briefly last week. Any movement in that direction?
Well, much like the city of Milton, who has no CARES money, the city of Pensacola has no CARES money. So at this particular time, all of that, I mean, either of us may decide to do it, but if we don't have some ability, some cooperation with our county jurisdiction, we did have a fairly good conversation last week. I know I've talked with a couple of commissioners. I've talked with Keith. Keith. Sitting here looking at Keith. I talked with Chips Kirchenfeld and I talked with Janice Gilley last week and explained to them that we fully understand that some of these programs are going to be through the grant process are going to be, the county is going to have to be the grantee. It's going to be their program. I still think the city of Pensacola has the ability to appropriate its own percentage. 18%. We've never asked for anything different than we already have an agreement with them based on the state. That is a sound way. This is state funding. Just go with the same model that the state does for sales tax. It's like 18.5.6%. Anyways, that amount of the money would come to the city. We could meet. We have a placeholder already scheduled to be held for our August 13th city council meeting. So at that point we have a placeholder and we can have that discussion. So if the county was to do it this week and we could deal with our 18% the following week, we would have it allocated. I do believe that's a portion that could happen in there, and I think you would see allocation. But right now, our bigger challenge is much the same way the city of Milton's going to be, is they're going to have an agreement with their county and how that distribution happens. But I do think cities were intended in doing that. The governor's office made it very clear that the counties were supposed to work with us. We understand if the county is going to be doing the program, but we still believe we should, as the city, have the ability to appropriate through our body, which handles appropriations, the city council, what we do and how we engage with those different county programs. So, and I've talked to some of the commissioners about it. They've seemed open to not us necessarily creating our own programs, but us creating our own allocation. And I've talked both with Chip Kirchenfeld and Janice Gilley, and Janice seemed open to that same possibility. So we look forward to talking with the county on Thursday, and we hope we can have a solution.
This is from Jim at the News Journal. What will become of the existing Black Lives Matter street mural?
A Street was scheduled to is scheduled. We've got some things happening. Scheduled to be milled and resurfaced in I believe November, December timeframe. That will be moving forward, and at that point, again, we won't necessarily have a Black Lives Matter mural, but until that time, again, that's city sees that will be the point that will be dealt with. We'll move forward, and we won't be in street painting anymore.
All right, and I am not seeing any other questions. So,
and by the way, I just want to say, when the group chose A Street, we made them, our engineering department made them aware that this was going to be happening in November, December. So they were fully aware when they chose that back in June. We've had this has been a CRA project for some time, that A Street is going to be milled and resurfaced and restriped, dealing with looking at hopefully making it more pedestrian bike friendly.
All right.
Otherwise, thank you for your time. We'll be Facebook Live on Wednesday, Casey. So we'll do some stuff then, and we'll have some more information related to COVID. I hope I have that information I got from the Japanese Consul General in Miami and have that information. I just thought it was interesting to see how other cultures, other countries have been successful in dealing with this. And that's what we're hoping to do here. The same thing. We want to keep moving forward. We think Pensacola has an incredible future ahead of it, whether it's the development downtown, whether it's SpaceX, whatever we're doing going forward with Space Force. All these things are great opportunities for the city. We just got to get through COVID. So we look forward to seeing you Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. And
I'm sorry, I'll hop back on here. One thing I forgot to put in your notes, Mayor, is that CPAC is tomorrow. So just a reminder for the Citizens Police Advisory Committee meeting is tomorrow at 5:30, and you can join virtually. Watch it at cityofpensacola.com/video, and we'll have that information on our website about how to participate if you want to.
Well, that's great. Please do. And I know there's been some discussion over the weekend. I did get some stuff from Charles Bear wanting to know about how to do some outreach and teams meetings with sort of like since we can't do these town halls, but doing some kind of way that we can conduct. So the city is looking at that. I think that's a great thing. I know we talked with Trudy and Keith, and we're trying to find a solution so that we can bring them something where they can get more input coming on Tuesday. So we hope to have something for them and that group that's working going forward. Thank you.